As he fell, he became aware of a presence, unlike any he had yet felt. He felt the life of the Prime rife within this creature, and the depths of daemonhood too, but also the spark of divinity upon its soul. But not how his felt. This was a purity of form and power, shaped and wielded, not worn like his own, and the power was seemingly faint, yet strong at the same time. It confused his senses, and his threads could not find anything to move towards, or grasp hold of to gain purchase and discover more. "You have come. I knew you would." The voice boomed out, yet surrounded him. Neat trick, he thought, as he still wrestled with his power, to try and push out and feel his surroundings. "You cannot do that here, and nor would I wish you to, so please, stop, before you run your strength down to that of a newling." He felt himself slowly being lowered toward a rough platform, a slowly spinning chunk of what felt like prime under his feet, and landed on it almost gently. A good distance from him, on another such chunk of prime, a towering robed figure stood, of great stature. Yet this creature was unknown to him, but seemed to look as though it bore markings from every daemon he had known of, and every host he had ever seen, and more. "You are a mortal creature?" he asked. "Yes, and no. If you mean, am I alive, then yes, and no. And if you mean I will succumb to age and die of decay and the passage of time, then also yes, and no." He talks and makes no sense, he thought. "Why did you ask me to come here?" "I asked you here to see that you were as had been arranged, and I am both elated and disappointed by what lies before me." "I am a disappointment to you?" He could feel his daemon rage starting to build at these words. "Yes, for you were to be the one, to unite them all, as I had been the first to understand them all. But it seems that Chrylsis failed once more, and now you walk the plains, devouring, destroying, and plotting against your kin." It adjusted its stance, and he could see this creature was not just a bipedal creature, a gigantic man-thing, if you will, but it had many arms, each covered in markings unknown to him, as tattoos, scars, perhaps magical patterning, sigils, glyphs perhaps. He did not understand what he was seeing, but as it moved several of its arms, he could see and feel the ebb and flow of many types of magic around it, and knew this was a being of great mastery, and it would seem a degree of such even over his kind. "I have seen the birth of the gods, one and all, of the seeds of the daemon kind spawn and spread forth through the ether, like a never-ending plague of magical origins. The source gifts life to your kind, and Chrylsis gifts life to the others of what you know now as the divine. And between you and they, the unaligned planes reside, with their own eternal neutrality, forever weaving their blessings and imbuing what they touch with their own uniqueness. And then, upon the places taken from the prime of existence, prime realms are formed, and there your kind pierce the veil, and wage war upon the hosts and their creations, in a never-ending cycle of attrition and death beyond imagining. And yet the prime allows it, despite all your kind's attempts to subvert it to your own ends, for the prime is eternal. It was here before you, and will be here long after your hosts lose their lights, and your essences are drawn into one singular darkness, and fall beyond the scope to reach the prime again." They paused for a moment, and turned their full attention back to him. and then it will begin anew. This creature knew more than he could imagine. But what was it? It was no daemon, no god, no prime creature he had ever seen, and yet somehow it held all three aspects of reality. And then he remembered what the Scaled Ones had told him, of one who had been born the first of all, upon the Prime, and turned his hand to the Prime and the hosts, as well as the Source. "You are him, aren't you? The last of the ones the Scaled Ones told me of." He felt a warmth come from the creature, and it answered, "Yes, I knew the Scaled Ones you saw the demise of well, for I taught them what they needed to know to survive when the lights of the gods were taken from them." He felt a coldness sweep past him, despite being able to actually feel such things. "By one born of the Source and Host. Had they known you had done this, they would never have aided you, never have shown you the ways of their kind, of their magics, and you would never have met the Spined One, and you would never have gained an insight into anger, rage, and loss. You owe them more than you realize." He looked on, and tried to fathom how this creature could know these things, but before he could speak, it continued. "And now you seek the Spine for revenge, the Source for payback of some kind you believe you deserve, the Hosts for, well, sport it would seem, and anything that gets between you and your whims, as more power means more knowledge, and more knowledge means more power, and so the cycle will continue until you are all, or you are." It paused, letting the words sink in before finishing with, "Stopped." It took some time before he acknowledged the words he heard, and controlled his building rage, as he was too weak from the travel to even consider fighting this creature, and he had a feeling that this thing wielded more than he could comprehend. He must learn before he confronted it. "Stop me how, may I ask?" "Simply put, if you do not stop yourself, your own actions will stop your advance, and eventually be your downfall. For as you once rose from the Source, as some of your kin do, you also fell from the Host, also as some do. And when all is said and done, that which is not part of you will be your undoing." He drew himself up, standing proud in the face of this towering creature, and as he tried to speak, it motioned with many of its hands, and as they moved, they traced visible magic across the air between them. He never knew this was possible, to see the threads in pure form, as something tangible to eyes not of divine or daemon kind. And as he watched, almost mesmerized by these actions, he was hit by a force so hard he reeled and was engulfed by immense pressure from all around, as he was sent speeding through the thickened threads he had traversed. In short time he found himself weakened of demonic power and drained of his divine reserves, but in a place he knew well. The plane he had made his own private battleground, that of his first demonic conquest. His anger could wait, for he needed to regain his strength, and he did so by taking that which he created into himself slowly, bathing in it and slowly rejuvenating his reserves, all the while thinking on this creature. He knew not its name, its identity, its kind nor its plane of residence. It had shown it had the power to toss him around like a rag doll, should he confront it within the depths of the demonic. Well, what should he call it? He had nothing to draw from, but decided to call it the place of solid threads for now, until he could discover what the place really was. He also needed to know more of his kind, both origin sides, for this creature was a threat to him, as was the Spined One, as he had called it, and he needed to regain his power and make his plans now to include this new factor.